Welcome to Martialpreneur TV. It's me, Scott, and in this episode we've got Allie Alberigo. He is a seasoned vet in the martial arts. He's a real-life ninja. He's the founder of Allie Ninjutsu, and as you can see in this call, he is a great guy with a wealth of knowledge, and particularly in the business side as well of martial arts, which is why I wanted to interview him for Martialpreneur TV. He coaches a lot of martial arts instructors. He has an online training program which coaches martial arts instructors to do better in their business. And without further ado, let's go and check him out. Welcome to Martialpreneur TV. We have our new guest, Allie Alberigo. Is that right?
Alberigo.
Alberigo. Sorry, Allie.
Yes.
I'm terrible.
That's okay.
And your very interesting character, Allie, is someone who's very experienced in the martial arts world. He's wrote books on martial arts business, and he also has a training course and sites to help other martial artists learn the business ropes. But without further ado, I'll pass you over to Allie, and he can introduce himself better than me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my name's Allie Alberigo. People usually mix up those two letters and they change it around, but that's common for me. I'm used to it my whole life, but that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, Alberigo's, I'm kind of a mixture of Italian, Maltese from the island of Malta, and also American Indian. Part American Long Island Indian, so it's a crazy blend. And I've been doing martial arts this year for 45 years. I celebrated, so it's quite amazing. I'm really excited, and it's just been a great lifestyle for me.
That's great. So what martial arts do you teach, Ali? I mean, where did you start out? What got your inspiration?
Well, I started at the age of 3, and my dad was a law enforcement agent. So he was a motorcycle policeman in Long Island, Nassau County. And I guess just being around all the riffraff in the early 70s, he figured he wanted me to know how to defend myself. I was a smaller kid, and I started in the martial arts. At the time, it was this program called Jerome Mackey, which was the first of probably the franchise martial arts schools. And it was a mixture of jiu-jitsu, judo, karate, some kung fu systems. And I got my first black belt. I was 7 years old. It was a junior black belt, of course. You know, they would never really honor you with a black belt. Yeah. So I got that certification, and then the school unfortunately had to close down. And I was fortunate. My cousin is a phenomenal martial artist, and he was a high-ranking black belt in Aikido. And so he taught me. He lived in Rockaway, New York. He'd come out 3-4 days at a time and spend it with me. We'd be in my backyard working out. And so I got a black belt, a second-degree black belt in Aikido. Okay. And fortunately, too, later on in life, because I love the art of Aikido, I was able to train in many seminars with Steven Seagal. And he's a great martial artist. So I was really lucky to be around him. That was one of my goals.
Oh, excellent. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Then I met one guy who changed my life, who you know of, and it was Chris Sayak of the Sayak Fighting Systems. And I was fortunate, probably no one can ever say this, that he actually lived with me in my home for a year. Wow. So he was out on Long Island, lived in my house, and him and his wife. And, it was like the Karate Kid movie, Mr. Miyagi. He'd say, okay, time to go in the backyard. And he had me doing outlandish things. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. He'd shoot arrows at me, and I'd have to move out of the way. He had me climbing up trees because I had a fear of heights, and then climb down backwards. He put me on a ladder and let go of it. One time I got shot in the leg with one of the arrows. He's like, keep on going. And it was just amazing. And then I ended up running a school for him. And basically he just handed me the keys, said, it's yours, keep teaching. And I did that for a long period of time, and then decided to just be a student again. Yeah. And then I met an American ninjutsu teacher from the Ronald Duncan line. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them in the UK, but he's very famous in the US. Okay. And he did American ninjutsu, Koguru kind of system. And his main top student was Xian Felix Vasquez, who became my teacher. And I trained with him for 15 years. Okay. And then from him, I met Tanimura Sensei of Japan, and then went off to Japan and started training there. And trained with Tanimura Sensei for like 13 years, traveling back and forth to Japan. I was there 17 times, lived there for months at a time, and trained. And it was just magical.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of my martial art history. In between, I did other things. I dabbled in Chinese Hawaiian Kempo and got a black belt and other things, Shotokan Karate. But my main love, what I teach now, is called 21st Century Ninjutsu. Right. It's kind of a collection of all the things that I've learned, but all the ninjutsu ruha, the family lines that I learned traditionally and from the American ninjutsu systems is in my school. That's what I teach now.
Oh, that's fantastic, Ali. I mean, it sounds like you've really immersed yourself. You've gone head first into the training from early on.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, I never took a break from the age of, like, let's say 4 or 5 when I was heavily into it till maybe training till I was in my early 40s. I trained pretty much 4 or 5 days a week, 3, 4, 5 hours a night. It was my life, and I traveled around the world, had schools all over the world actually at one point that I would teach at.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show and just pick your brains a little bit. If you would mind sharing with us, some of the tips you may have brought up from along your journey, sort of running your schools professionally. I mean, I was always thinking, what could I ask Ali? How could I pick your brains? And I was thinking, where did you first? I know you said a bit about teaching for SIOC method.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time you started teaching?
Yeah, when I was kind of handed, of course, for my teachers, I'm sure you too, they say take over the class and, you take care of the class, and all of a sudden you get a taste of teaching. Yep. But my real experience of running a school, like the whole actual aspect of running the school was with Chuhan SIOC. Yep. And but I knew nothing about it. I was 17 years old. I got handed keys. I used to ride there on my moped, my motorbike and get there. And, I did it for as best as I could. I made business cards in high school on the printing press and handed them out to all my friends. But I really kind of felt like it switched too quickly for me from being a martial artist to running stuff and not being able to train and not getting in the mix of things. And I was like, what? I wanted to really train still. So that's when I decided to just stop and go back and just train. Sure. And that was my first experience. And not until about 1982, I started training with my actually 81, training with my teacher, Xian Vasquez, and then teaching for him almost immediately, running classes and so on. Right. And he encouraged me to open up my own location, which I did. And that was in 1991, 21 years ago. Right. I've been running a full-time school, one, if not the largest ninjutsu school on the planet, but at least one of them for the longest time. Probably one of the oldest running schools, commercial schools. When I say commercial, having students that pay and a business that operates and employees to pay and so on for 21 years. Wow,
that's fantastic. That's great. I mean, what would you give sort of advice with obviously any tips if someone was just starting out? How would you, if you were just starting out again? Would you approach anything differently to you did in the beginning, or would you do it the same
Definitely.
way?
Well, what's interesting? The martial art business in general is something that people really don't understand is a business. And I know I'm going over to be in Nottingham to teach at the business convention over there for Nest Management. Right. And it's interesting because they warned me, they're like, we're very leery in England and the UK about that American salesman / business owner mentality. And I'm kind of from a different cloth, though. I know that it's about relationships. I'm not the salesperson kind of guy. I believe that the martial arts is about connecting with an individual. What's interesting, though, is initially when I first started my school, I ran a very lucrative landscape construction business. I had 37 employees, made a lot of money on that. When I built my school, I actually did everything opposite of what I would do in my landscape business because I thought, as a martial artist, you get this stigma, that it's not about the money. You can't make money. You can't be successful. You can't run a business because if you do, you've sold out.
And guys are sort of afraid to take money for their good service that they do.
And I have had people on the internet put me down and say, I don't know if you have the term over there, but they say it's a McDojo, like McDonald's. Yeah. And I laugh because, if anybody is business, you go to Japan, the martial artists over there, the senseis, they're making money off the Americans. And anybody who comes over there to travel, it's all about making money, but it's also about transfer of the art. Yes. And it's no different than 2,000 years ago, when the samurai, you were one of their the samurai for the shogun, you got paid to cut heads off. That's they collected money. You know, you would actually get a bounty based on the amount of heads that you killed. I don't know if you know this, but the samurai were so good in war that they'd actually put incense in their helmets, so that when they got their heads cut off, when the people collected their heads, they didn't have to be offended by the smell. It was interesting at how honorable they were, right? But it was all about the money.
Yeah.
You know, so it was about you a mercenary for hire at that time. So martial artists always paid their dues, whether it be cleaning or cooking or, you know, doing what they can. And that's the way it should be for their sensei. Yeah. Unfortunately, now we don't have students that live with us and clean our garden and paint our house, but they pay us in the form of tuition. Yeah. And now that's their exchange, you know. So, but unfortunately, and all around the world, people think I pay you $120. You give me martial art classes, and that's where the relationship ends. No. And I don't believe that to be true. I believe that as martial artists, we give so much more than what we're getting paid for. And no matter how much on the highest scale you're getting paid, it's still nothing compared to what you should be paid for the lessons that you've spent 30 years learning and blood and sweat and bruises and all of that. So to me, that's a big thing to get over that fear of money, the fear of success, and the fear of being a professional at what you do.
Yeah. It's just being able to stand up and just promote. So as you know, the guys I speak to is I say, you know, if you went to the gym and had a personal trainer, you know, they have no problem. You know, they've been through a similar path, and they will have no problem with charging you, you know, X, Y, and Z for whatever service they're giving. So why the martial arts, like you said, you know, has that strange stigma that, you know, guys just need to understand that, you know, you've got value there. It's worth.
And you know, it's kind of odd because it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know who started the philosophy way back when, but it's just this weird. It's all, and just listen, priests that do sermons in churches get paid. Yeah. Everyone has to survive. So for someone who could change lives, like a psychiatrist or a surgeon, they make a lot of money. Yeah. Well, as martial artists, we change lives. I just had one of my students come to me yesterday. He actually lives in Manhattan, which is about an hour and a half from Long Island, where I live. Okay. And he's been taking private lessons with one of my top black belts who moved to the city. He pays about $350 per week, in US dollars per week, to train. He's been doing that for 6 years. And he came to me and said, it helped me with my life, my business. He owns a seat on the stock exchange. It helped me with my relationships. And he understands that value that most people don't get. So we can't, and it's changed his life. I mean, it literally transformed him into who he is now. Yeah. So why wouldn't we feel okay about charging? Even, you know, whatever we charge is not anything compared to what we're worth.
Absolutely, no, completely agree there, Ali. That's awesome. I mean, you've really summed that up there. Just I hope some people on the call, you know, be able to watch this and take that on board.
Well, it's interesting. I'm working with a client now in England, and we're working over email and Skyping and so on. And it's hard for me to break the paradigm of where they're at. Right. For example, I look at their website and I say, I build websites for martial artists and all different businesses as well. I have a website business. So I always say it's all about selling on the page. It's not about going, you know, sign up here in 1999, best deal, you know, that kind of sale. Yeah. It's about showing who you are. And most school owners, they list their resume. They say, I'm a 4th degree black belt. I'm a pit fighter. I won in Thailand. I'm a security special ops guy.
It's the one-upmanship every time.
Yeah. And also it's a resume. It's not, you see, everybody who's reading the website or listening to you when you're trying to get them to join your school, they're all into what I call the WIIFM. That's a radio station. What's in it for me? Yeah. What's in it for me? So like when you're selling, if you're going to say you're a 5th degree black belt, they have to know why it benefits them. What does that 5th degree black belt do for them or their child? Yeah. It's not about how tough you are, how cool you are, because you and I both know there are many deadly people out there who have no right being teachers at all. Yeah. You know, they can't teach. They scare away more people from the martial arts. And I was one of those guys. When I said I first started my business, I did everything opposite of what I knew was to be smart with business. My first class was a full contact kickboxing class. We put the gloves on them. We beat them into the walls. Literally every night we'd actually spackle the holes in the wall so that it was dry for the next day. Right. And, you know, one of my good friends who ran a very successful jiu-jitsu school at the time, he said, he came and watched my school. He says, you got 20 warriors, 20 amazing fighters. But what about all those other people that you've hurt or turned away because they thought after you scared them and they got hurt, like a 42-year-old accountant who hasn't worked out in 10 years comes into your door and now he's throwing up in the toilet, because I chewed him up and spit him out. And I would say my excuse was, well, they wouldn't last anyway. Well, lo and behold, when I changed my mindset, they started to last. And I changed more accountants into warriors than I ever did by beating them into the wall initially when I started. So it's all about that paradigm shift. We have to learn that we have to present it in a way, in baby steps, small little steps, so that people can absorb it.
That's great.
Right?
I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Ali, as well. I find that, obviously, saying from the website point of view, things is that I had a website that did very well a little while back. That was just a video of myself talking, just as we are, sort of like as we are now. There was no techniques. There was no martial arts. It was just about talking about who I am and what I had to offer, and that actually did very well. I had more people respond to that than having the high-paced, fast-kicking, kneeing everyone in the head, smashing teeth out kind of thing. It was that worked very well. So I don't know your thoughts on that.
Well, you see, it's interesting that you say that, because we think as martial artists we want to present, like, for example, me flipping someone in the air and throwing them, because it shows me as a martial artist, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when we throw someone on a video and someone else who's not a martial artist that wants to become one and watches that video, who do you think that they envision themselves being in that video?
They're the guy getting pounded.
Yeah, exactly. So they go, that's not for me. I don't want to get pounded. He's going to throw me just like that guy. Yeah. So we have to be real careful about the psychology. And, there are three fears that stand out in martial arts. The number one fear for anybody is public speaking. Or at least it's way up at the top.
Yep.
The second one is the fear of falling and fear of loud noises. So we take them into a guy who's got no experience. We set him up in our class. We're ki-eyeing. Some schools throw them right away or make them roll and fall. And the next one is we want them to speak in public by making their own ki-eyes. So right now, they go home with this very uneasy feeling, and they don't even know why. And they go, this just wasn't right for me. Because and we're making them do things they're supposed to do. We right away have instilled fear, put them away.
Yeah. Sorry.
Now, when I mindset out of first class, and I slowly baby step.
Yeah, sorry, Ali. I think
Did I lose you?
The call's just dropping out slightly there. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. It says a connection between you is too slow for good video.
Okay.
So what should I do? Should I recall you back?
Yeah. You're right. Just to call back. We'll just drop it out just for a second. I'll give you a call back.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So sorry there. I don't know, that's a bit better.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Isn't that odd, right?
That's fine though. We can clip it back together. But that's great.
Okay.
So sorry, you were just saying there.
Yeah, the thing with me, when I started to understand the psychology of a student, I started to change things in my presentation. Now, to me, people might say, it's all about the business or it's this and that. I'm a ninja practitioner. So to me, ninjas are all about stealth. So I covertly get people to become ninjas in my school. They don't even know it. Half the parents who sign their kids up have no clue. MMA, kung fu, karate, ninjutsu. They just hear karate as a word, and they imagine punching and kicking and discipline. They still have that Mr. Miyagi mindset from the Karate Kid still in their head, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
So what I did was I slowly baby stepped people into our style, and I eliminated all their fears first, getting them used to what we do, understanding why we do what we do, then allowing them to do it. So for instance, I would never have someone take a fall, but I might teach them how to fall. But they do it from the sitting position. Then they do it from the squatting position. Then they do it from the standing position. Then they would do it with a partner very slowly. So now all of a sudden they're like, I could do this. And now they start falling and they get used to it, and they know how to do it properly so they don't get injured.
Yep.
And then they move on and they can grow from there. So you asked me before if I could give you the three things that I think are important to martial arts as a teacher. Yes. Number one, you have to be a great martial artist. There are a lot of martial artists out there who are teaching that are not really that qualified to do martial arts in general. They don't have a lot of experience.
Sure.
And then so you got to be a great martial artist on the floor physically. The number two thing is that you have to be charismatic and a good public speaker. So if you can't teach and present your lesson, people will be lost and then they will quit. They'll be bored to death. And I've seen so many great technicians who are terrible teachers who have 20 students and they're never going to get any further.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
And the third thing is you have to be a black belt on the floor physically, a black belt speaker and presenter, a storyteller, and then a black belt businessman. So many people think that just because they're good at martial arts, they're going to be good at business. And that's why in the U.S., I just did a mailing, for example, in New York. We have, first off, when I opened my school, we had about 380 schools from the tip of Albany to the tip of Long Island, New York, Montauk Point. 380. Right now, we're at about 1,800 in 10 years. We've built so many schools and competition out there. It's insane. Right. So now, but when I did a mailer just recently for a tournament that I'm promoting, at least out of that, we get about 600 schools a year that close and there's people that reopen. But that's the turnover rate. I'm sure it's the same by you.
Yeah, it's pretty much similar. They pop up and, someone will get it in. I'm putting together a little information video about starting off in the beginning, and I know lots of guys, they tend to think, I'm fed up with work. They just, they've had the bad conversation with the boss, throw the toys out the pram, as we say in the UK, and just quit their job. And then the next day they're like, all right, I'm going to teach what I love doing. And then they suddenly go, where's all the students?
Well, it's like anything else. And here's a great analogy. If you owned a coffee shop, but you're just great at making coffee, and you just take it there and you just start making coffee, but you do nothing about business, you're going to end up going out of business. So like a company and I know there's a big one in the UK, a coffee company that it's like a Starbucks, right? I forget the name.
Costa Coffee?
Yes, there you go. And they're systemized. Everything from the minute they open the door to the way they turn on the machines to how much they serve, how much milk, how much sugar. I mean, it's exact science. So that one day it's not a good coffee and one day it's a bad coffee. Every day is a good coffee.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So we don't run our schools with the business mindset. We have to understand that everything, it's like performing on stage. If I was in a Broadway play, and one day I was good, one day I was bad, half the audience would love me, half the audience would hate me. That's what martial artists are very much like. One day they're up, one day they're in a bad mood, their students feel that. The next day they're in a good mood, and another day they're tired. So they don't have consistency within their school. So students join and quit just like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very important. So with those three things, I also have another three that I talk about in our schools. We forget as martial artists. Number one, high quality. Number two, high profit. And number three, low stress. And I know when people hear that high profit word, they're going to be like, there it is. It's all about business. But it's not, because we have to understand our value.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And without it, we're in trouble, because we could have 1,000 students at $10 a month, or we could have 100 students at $150 a month. Yeah. And it's much easier to teach 150 than it is to teach 1,000.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Less complaints from parents of why this one didn't get his belt, or why this kid's promoted first, or less complaints from everybody about all the different things, because we have a tightly knit, high quality group of students.
Yeah, you can spend more time on those students because you don't have to worry about chasing the next person in through the door, and you can give them the quality. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And interesting that you said that, because, we have a thing that we talk about in the U.S., of course, and I'm sure you've heard it, is like the in through the front door, out through the back door, right? It's retention with our students. So we if you look at it like a bucket, it's a bucket filled with holes in it. So we're pouring students in the top, and they're pouring right out the bottom. Yeah. So one other business advice for the people, and by the way, I have a program that it's called takingittotheNextLevel.com.
I was gonna ask you about the next level, if you wanted to tell us a little bit more about that. Oh, sorry, you've dropped out.
You there?
Sorry, Ellie, yeah, it keeps dropping
out. It's okay, don't worry. I'm used to it.
We do really good, and I'm like, no, I just want to hear what he's going to say next.
Yeah, and I saw you freeze, and then I stopped. I'm like, I think we lost each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that I have a program called takingittotheNextLevel.com.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that website. Yeah, I did see that on your site there.
Yeah, it's an online step-by-step business education. It's not a business library or resource. Yep. It's not like you have tons of information and you just pick and choose what you want. Like, that sounds good, I'll try that. Or this sounds good, I'll try that. It's literally a step-by-step from month one, as if you just open your school. Yep. Month two, and then you start building system on top of system all the way until year 5, which is 12 months per level, and 5 years. It's like going to college for martial arts, martial artists. So I developed that first to train my staff. I wasn't even thinking of it as a commercial thing. It was just to train my own team.
Yep. So
and then one of my friends. I'm sorry, say that again.
Sorry, so that everyone is on the same page, and when you open the school, they've got the same format. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what happened was one of my buddies from another school said, "Hey, can I use that to train my staff?" And I said, "Yes." And all of a sudden, he started getting these great results. And I said, "Wow, I'm onto something, and I'm going to delve into coaching." And I do that coaching now. I actually coach and do one-on-one coaching calls with clients every week, once a week. We do it, and I've taken guys, and they've literally quadrupled their schools in less than a year.
Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and not just their size of their student base, but financially, like for example, in the U.S., $3,000 they started with, and I have one guy now who's at like $13,000 in 1 year per month. So I mean, that's a big, huge increase, right?
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. So when you look at it, I mean, it's like a $9,000, almost a $9,000 difference times 12 months. You're looking at $100,000 in income increase.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the reason why it works so well is because I eliminate all the guessing. I eliminate all the what if let me try this, or that didn't work, let me try this. And I just tell them, this is what I do. Here's the system from step 1 through to the end. And they do it. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to come up with ideas. They don't have to figure out like they're a mad scientist in a laboratory.
Yeah.
They have to do that.
I remember in the early days, it feels like that. You sort of like, what do I do next? You know, and you just sort of grab at ideas and...
Oh my goodness!
So this is all the tried and tested things that you know work.
Yeah, and it's ridiculously cheap. I charge $69.99 per month. If you got one student, it would cover the entire year's worth of tuition for that one student. And so it's just, I want to make it affordable. I don't want it to be just about business. I feel if I have volume, and like I said, I have people from Nest Management that are doing it, that are getting great results right there in the UK. And so that proves that it's not just a United States thing, that it works only for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great. I mean, where can we find that information? I know I saw on your website somewhere. Where can we find that if we need to?
Well, it's actually right on the website. It's www.takingittoTheNextLevel.com.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah. And you'll see information on there. There's some great testimonials from clients and so on. But it was my goal. Like, I couldn't understand the disconnect. So we're martial artists, right? And if a student comes to us and says, "Teach me that black belt double jumping flip kick or kata," we'd go, no. Take the time, start at the basics, right? Yeah. Learn how to do a block, learn how to do it. You get your stances and your balance. Yet when we do business, like you said before, a guy says, "I'm going to quit my job. My boss is a jerk." Yeah. They go out, they find a hall or they find a business, and they're able to go there and start a program. Yet they have no business plan whatsoever, which is the best business success plan for failure.
Yep,
right?
Exactly. Having no plan.
Yeah, no plan at all. It's like almost like going in there and saying, "Oh, I haven't practiced in years my physical techniques, but I'm going to go get into a cage match," and you get beat up.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Yes. So that's what my goal is, always to help the industry, and irrelevant of style, system, martial art, or organization. It's all about practices of business psychology.
Sure. That's great, Ali. I mean, that's like a little bit about what we're trying to do with Martialpreneur TV, is find guys like you who, can show people the way, and just help them along. So that's great. I wonder
if you ever want to do this on a more regular basis and get a tip of the week or tip of the month or whatever, and be able to help you guys over there. Here's why I started coaching. Yeah. I was on a big mission to convert everyone in the world to ninjutsu practitioners. It's my art. It's the best art. That's what I thought. I was young. I want everyone to be my student and train in my art. And I realized that was never going to happen. So I said, how can I help the industry? Because all of you martial artists that are listening, and yourself, we are literally probably one of the last hopes of saving people, moral standards, ethics, protocol, all the things that are not being taught in the public school systems, that the media is ignoring, that parents are having such a hard time getting their kids to listen to because it's not cool. It's not, it's better to wear pants down to your butt, in New York, where your underwear is hanging out because it's fashion. When I was younger, if that happened, my dad would have smacked me and said, "Don't ever wear those clothes." But nowadays, if you don't, your friends make fun of you. The kids get peer pressure in school, and they bullied because they're not fitting in with the crowd. Yeah. So how do we change that? And I think martial artists are that hope. The guys like yourself and all the people listening, you guys are there to help the world hold on to those values so that it doesn't just degrade into chaos.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I see that just the general decline. I mean, like I'm 30, so I'm not young. But I'm still.
You're young.
I'm still there, but,
you're very young.
I noticed with a lot of the younger kids that they've just not got that manners that I was taught as a kid, and the same thing with teaching at school, teaching in my schools.
I'm sorry, you cut out on me again.
I think we had another glitch there, but I was just saying that general across the board, a lot of the kids, they just don't have those basic manners that I remember being taught as a kid, and it seems to be the norm that they don't, and I think you're right. It's one of the last stands is martial arts community.
It is
in any form, still have that discipline and that regard for each other, no matter what your level is. It's just respect.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is what I think. There's a positive side of the MMA, and there's a negative side of MMA, because MMA fighters are missing out on that protocol, that discipline, that respect level. I'm not saying they don't have it. What I'm saying is you could get a guy like, I think, Roy Jones, right? He was a collegiate wrestler, and now he's an MMA champion. He's only spent like 4 years in the martial arts total. Like, he's done sports, but he's not been a martial artist. So guys like that are super talented, unbelievable martial artists, they haven't had that mentorship, that tutoring on how to control the mind, how to develop a good spiritual connection with people around you. They don't know how to deal with, and I'm not saying he does, I'm saying in general, people who have a shorter amount of training period, they don't have that training on how to control themselves, how to physically act, how to overcome stress. And this is just like rock and roll stars. When they make it to the top and they make a lot of money and they're famous, when they don't do it anymore, a lot of them turn to drugs and alcohol, because their world, they were here and now they're here, and they don't know how to deal with that bell curve, that swing. And a lot of MMA guys, you've seen some of the superstars, and not mentioning names, turn to drugs and alcohol, get in trouble, and some of them even kill themselves, and football stars and professional athletes, and it's because they don't have the strength internally, and that's what traditional martial arts teaches. Absolutely. So parents are looking for that. That's what parents want, and that's what adults want for themselves. So we have an avenue, a venue for us to continually change people's lives, and again, that's why we're so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're hitting there, Ali, as well. It's just structure. I think the structure is just missing for a lot of people in many different walks. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
So sorry, I was just going to say, I know we had a little chat earlier, and you said that you've wrote a book as well. Was it a book that
I've actually written a bunch of books, but I have, let me hold it up. I have a book called, this one is called Martial Art. Can you see that? Martial Art Business 101. Yep. This is actually sold out, and it's in a reprint right now, but it's actually doing really well in the UK. Okay. Of course, due to Nest Management, and they give this to their clients or sell it to their clients, but it's all about business and how to run a school. It's not the hokey kind of thing. It's all about simple things that almost people call me, they talk about me and say I'm the guy who kind of just dumbs it down, keeps it real. It's not about all this crazy stuff, because it's really not. It's not rocket science. It's just good business practices.
Absolutely.
Right? And then I wrote another one. This one is on my martial art lifestyle, called 21st Century Ninjutsu. Awesome. And it's basically a warrior's way of life. And it's just my philosophies over the last 40 years. Some great stories with Tuhan Sayak in there, the one that I just talked about before, with him shooting arrows at me. And, my teachers and travels to Japan and things I've dealt with my students and spiritual lessons. And it's not really a technical book. It's not something that I made to teach you how to do a movement or how to defend against a technique, but the mindset.
More autobiographical.
Yeah, and it's really about the mindset of a martial artist, right? Okay. Where those spiritual lessons, the things we were just chatting about, that how that changes a person, it's got that in the book. Because to me, that's a big thing for me. I want people to, be stress-free. For example, one of my students who I talked about before, who was actually training yesterday, he has a seat on the stock exchange. High stress job, a lot of going on. He's got employees. So he said, how do I deal with stress? And I said, you don't allow it to be stressful. And he says, well, that's easy. And I gave him an analogy. I said, at an amusement park, there are people online for a roller coaster. Some are ready to throw up before they even get on and scared to death. Others are so happy that they can't wait to get on that ride, because it's like euphoria for them, right? Yeah. So now those two people are on the same exact ride. So one chooses to make it scary, one chooses to make it fun. So when we have stress, it's just a matter of shifting our perspective, our paradigm, and making sure that we say, okay, is it really that stressful? Is it going to change our lives? Is it going to matter in a week, 2 months, a year? So we have to look at our lives in that spiritual context and say, what does it all really matter? Take it into perspective and say, is it really that bad? And that's how spiritually we overcome a lot of the obstacles. But it takes training of the mind, though, to do that.
Ali, I think we could talk for hours on this subject, because maybe we'd do another call on this if you'd be up for it. But
yeah, I'd love to.
I recently overcame bowel cancer. I had
oh wow,
cancer of the bowel, and I, without going into it too far, like I say, I think we could talk on another call about the mindset. But I treated that in a very similar way. We say change the paradigm.
Absolutely, yes.
Had to weigh it up. You know, obviously it's bad news, but you have to look at it as, look, you can either lay down and let it beat you, or you can approach it like training. You know, I approached it like training, and treatment and everything, and operations were just like training. You had to go in there, and it was like game day, you know, and it's just keep on and pick yourself up.
Here's the thing for you too, is like, and I'm not saying that this is not scientific and medical, right? But when people get sick, a lot of times it stems from the body breaking down. So our immune system is broken down. So who knows how much stress that you internalize that maybe created you to get sick in the first place, right?
Yeah,
so that's important to understand as well. Like, for example, my yoga teacher passed away about 4 years ago.
Right.
His name was Swami Bawaji, 127 years old when he died.
127?
Yes, 127. Now, this was a man who lived no stress. He didn't go grocery shopping. His students brought his food. He traveled the world many times over and never once paid for it. When he would sit with me and chat with me, he'd ask me questions like, have you ever heard of Hitler? And I'm like, the guy, ever heard of Einstein? I'm like, of course I did. He goes, I got Einstein to stop smoking cigars. Like, he was around every technological advance since 1885. He saw every major world war. And at times when we would chat, he'd close his eyes, and I thought he would fall asleep. After all, he's 127. Yeah. And then I'd stop talking, and I didn't want to interrupt him. He'd go, why'd you stop talking? And I said, oh, I thought you fell asleep. He goes, no, I'm just resting. He goes, I conserve my energy when I don't need to give too much energy. I just sit and I'm enjoying our conversation. And he lived that kind of lifestyle. And that's why he lived as long as he did, because he was just such an unbelievable master of Zen, you know, a master of peace. Yeah. He was magical. I miss him so much, you know, but at the same time,
amazing character. Amazing.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You can look him up on the internet. He's one of the oldest living yogis in the world, and just incredible. But that's what I learned from him too. Yeah. It's just quite unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could talk about hours on this subject. Hours.
Yeah, and let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do it on another call. We'll have another call and talk about the sort of mental mindset side of things. That'd be great.
Yes.
But I mean, thank you, Ali, for passing on information. I mean, is there anything you'd like to tell people where they can find more about you? I know we said about the next level.
Yeah, I'd love for them to check out my website at takingittoTheNextLevel.com. Maybe you could put it up on there. And I also have my school website, LI Ninja, like Long Island, LINinja.com. Okay. And then I also I have a store, which is an online store called atouchofzen.com.
Okay.
I got a lot of .coms, but just so people could get in touch. And the great thing is, if you want to subscribe on my Facebook page or my YouTube page, my Facebook page, just look my name up, Allie Alberigo, or my YouTube page is Long Island spelled out, Long Island Ninjitsu, and I have like 58 videos of me doing technique, a lot of these philosophical kind of, you know, ramblings. And one day I feel something that needs to be said, so I say it and I record it, and so they can check me out there. But I'm really honored. I appreciate you, because guys like you are the ones that are changing things. And you know, you're only 30. I'm 48 years old. And it's guys like you that are going to carry on this tradition and teach people and help them. So I commend you for doing that. So, you know, if you need my help ever, you just let me know.
Thanks, Ali. I mean, likewise. And I mean, I think there's this huge gap, and especially in the business side. And it needs to be, you know, like yourself, people who are stand-up guys who are not there to be Mac Dojo and just rinse everyone for every penny. You know, you're a genuine guy. You're a genuine guy. And like I say, if anyone wants to get in touch, I'll put all the information in this call and where they can find you. And then hopefully we can do another call.
I'd love to. Anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ali. I appreciate it. So thank you for
joining us on. I appreciate it too.
And,
okay.
I'll speak to you soon.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thanks, man.